So let me talk to you about, girl, how did you hook up with Mick? Because first of all, as I'm watching it and I see, because I didn't, maybe I saw it and it didn't register, but when I saw Mick Jagger's face pop up on the screen, I was like, what? What? How did you hook up with Mick Jagger and Quest? Like, did they come to you? Did you come to them? Talk to me about it.
Well, you know what's so exciting is that when the agents and the folks who were making this, Mick Jagger and Questlove were already in place as the EPs, so they reached out through Universal and the producers, and they were like, "Hey, Deb, there's a docu-series happening. It's about James Brown." And it was said all cool. I was like, "James Brown? Wait, I'm all about James Brown.
The
He's from
Godfather of Soul? What?
the Godfather of Soul, the hardest working man in show business. I would love who's involved." And they were like, "Oh yeah, Mick Jagger and Questlove." Okay. Stop playing. Yes, 1,000% yes. And that was just in that moment where it's going to be an important thing to do, and you're going to be a part of something significant and important. And there have been lots of docu-series and lots of music docs of late, and even a narrative film about James Brown and a previous documentary about James Brown. But to be able, as a Black woman born in the South, to bring my lived experience and my lens to his story and my empathy and my understanding and my ability to look at him and see my own father and see my Uncle Ed and my Uncle Alan and to understand his Blackness, and how that Blackness infused into who he was and how prejudice and race and class and being a seventh grade dropout impacted him as a man and as a musician. I'm like, I'm here for it. Let's go.
Listen, when was the first time you can recall being aware of James Brown?
The I I remember my uncle owned this club called the Brown Derby in Savannah, Georgia, and he loved James Brown. And I just remember us dancing and everybody trying to dance like James Brown. And we'd be sliding all over the floor and doing the most. And super bad is what I remember. And I was like, yeah. And then my mother kind of, I think she was partial to get on the good foot. And so so it's this kind of club. It's not a club that James Brown would play. It was a small little, it wouldn't even qualify on the Chitlin circuit. It was a small community club, but we used to get it in dancing, and as a young person I would have to serve the food and all sorts of things. So it was a ton of fun, but that's when I kind of recognized that there was something about James Brown that they loved. And there was something about James Brown that maybe, and as I finished the doc series, Carla, I realized what it was, that James Brown was able to say and do things that my father and my uncles could not. He was able to go places that they probably wanted to go and that they wish they could go, and square up on people in a way that he did that they couldn't. So he liberated them and he freed them. And through him, they were more encouraged and they were more optimistic about the future, because if you look at Say It Loud, it allowed us to be loud because
To be loud, be black, and be proud. Yes, it did.
if that's liberation, right? That's power and it's empowerment, because before, silence, right? We were always like, shh, don't be loud. Don't be so loud. Shh, don't say anything. Don't talk about it. We had to keep everything quiet. We couldn't talk about anything. We
Out
had
of
to
fear, out of
out of
fear,
fear.
because in
It
this
was
country, black people,
talking.
black people talking, black people reading, black people having any agency whatsoever as an intelligent human was not embraced in this country ever.
and
It
could
still
and
isn't.
could invite violence. So to be able to say it loud, he was giving me a lesson, Carla. He was talking to me about, Deb, say it, own the narrative. You can be of great courage to say the things that you need to say, unabridged and unfiltered, because you have to say it. Because so many people want to erase it They want to make it go away. They want to act like it does not exist. So we have to say it, and we have to say it loud and loud enough for our ancestors, for my grandmother and my great grandmother, who didn't always outside of the home be able to say anything, much less say it. And they certainly couldn't say it loudly. They were always whispering.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I
so,
understand. I do. I
yeah,
understand. What was the
loud enough for the future to hear too.
what was the most surprising thing that you learned in the process of pulling all of this together?
I learned a tremendous amount, but I will tell you, there's a piece of footage that stuck with me, and that was the footage from the March Against Fear after James Meredith was shot. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and James Brown was there with Dick Gregory and Stokely Carmichael and Martin Luther King and Sammy Davis Jr. and James Meredith on Tougaloo's campus, this HBCU, and you could see the power of this collective, that these incredibly, impeccably dressed, fascinating, fearless, courageous Black men on this stage were fighting for all of us. And they were able to use media, right? The way you and I are using media right now, they were able to use it then to empower, but also to be very clear about their intention and about what they want. So when Dr. King was assassinated and Say It Loud was subsequently written, all of that pain and all of that grief went into those words. And seeing that footage, I understood Say It Loud so much better, but I also understood how James Brown could be. In 1969, on the cover of Look magazine, it said, "Is James Brown the most important Black man in America?" And
Instead of the most important man.
yeah,
No,
but he-
that part. Yeah.
that that part, you know,
What can you share that maybe Yama, Diana, and Larry shared with you that didn't end up in the documentary that you wanted to desperately put in there, but you just like, I just don't have enough time.
you know what they shared. They shared, both Deanna and Yama shared that their father, when they were young, they would go out to eat a lot, and he loved Applebee's and he loved churches,
Okay, that's
fried
funny.
chicken. Yeah. And and he would do two things. He would drive them back to where he grew up to show them how and where he grew up. And then they would go eat. And they would be hungry, and their dad would sign every single autograph. And you know how when you're young, you're like, oh my God, can we just order and eat? Every single autograph, every single time they went out to eat, because he treasured and valued his fans. I love that about him. But I also loved the fact that those girls and Larry loved their daddy. And Larry told us, and it didn't make the cut, about how he and his brothers, his dad loved driving. Like, you know, he said he didn't have a car growing up, so that's why James Brown had a lot of cars. But he actually liked to drive go-karts with them when they were young, and that they would just go fast. And they all remarked about those moments when they could have their dad to themselves. Learned. You want to talk about what I learned? I learned that Papa Don't Take No Mess was a sample for Janet Jackson. That's the Way Love Goes. I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. And I remember them, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, saying that in the doc. And I was like, honestly, I didn't know that the bass line for the majority, because the bass line for all his songs was pretty much the same. It was dun 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 dun, dun, right? And that one bass line was pretty much the bass line in a whole bunch of songs that got sampled by people like LL Cool J and Run
Of
DMC
beginning.
and, all these other artists that came after him. I did not realize how far and wide his sound reached and stretched across generations in that regard. So thank you
George
for that.
Michael.
Deborah Riley Draper, girl, thank you so much for making time for me. I appreciate you more than I'll ever be able to tell you. And I'm a click stop so that we can chat, but I'll see you in
Okay.
a couple of weeks.